Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Healing Grounds. So, the 4th of July is coming up, and if you're not familiar, it's a fairly large holiday in the US. This wasn't part of my first initial 10 pilot episodes I had planned on making, but I overlooked the timing, and I thought we should talk about it since we're here. And if you're outside of the US, this holiday won't apply to you, but the video still might. Should I reach out to my ex during this time? My answer is probably not, but I do want to go a little deeper than that. I'm not going to pretend that the holidays are easy when you're going through a breakup because you're going to be standing at the cookout or watching fireworks or just sitting around with your family while everyone else is having fun, and this wave of emotion is going to hit you out of nowhere. It's going to come from a song or something as simple as the smell of lighter fluid and grilling or somebody lighting a firework, right? And now you're gonna be fighting back tears, or maybe it was already exhausting enough to simply be out in public around people, and you don't even understand why, or at least fully, right? Because it's not like the 4th of July meant anything special to you and your ex. You probably didn't have this big tradition. It's not your anniversary. Maybe neither of you even cared about the holiday. So, why does this day get to be the one that you are struggling to get through? And I do see this confusion constantly because people tend to think that something is wrong with them because a holiday that would otherwise be just another day is kind of steamrolling them out of nowhere. But it doesn't need to make sense for it to feel real or be real. You don't need the 4th of July to have been your anniversary for it to remind you that that your person, is no longer in your life. It just needs to be a day that exists now without somebody in it who used to be there. And that's it. So when it catches you off guard in the middle of this barbecue or pool party or vacation in the woods, and you were just enjoying it 30 seconds earlier, you're not being dramatic. You're not broken as a person. And it's not some sign that you're more broken up about this than you should be by any point in post breakup. It's just grief showing up uninvited, as grief always tends to do. And it doesn't care what's on your calendar or where you're at in the healing process or where you're at in the world. It just wants to come and kick you in your respective genitals for the love of the game. Now, with all that in mind, what can you do about this? Because I'm sure you know that it's coming up, and I know that's what you're here for, right? Well, it depends on what your situation is and what question you're dwelling on, and a little bit on what your end goal is. If you're sitting here thinking to yourself that you should reach out and wish them a happy 4th, look, I don't think there's an easy answer for that one. What I will say is, if it's still early in the breakup, if it just happened a few weeks ago or even a couple months ago, I would hold off. Mostly because I want you to ask yourself honestly what you are hoping happens when you hit send. Are you wishing them a good day because you actually mean it? Or are you hoping it opens a door back into their life? If you already know in your gut that it's the second one, there's your answer. And if you're further along from the breakup and there's no bad blood between you guys, a simple happy 4th, hope you're doing well with nothing else attached to it is fine. Send it, let it sit there, do not follow up with it. Don't wait by your phone and try not to read into whatever they say, good or bad, or nothing. You should actually approach this with an assumption you will get a rejection. Either no answer whatsoever, no reply, or a negative one, like, why are you texting me? We broke up, right? And if you are genuinely okay with that outcome, it's okay to send that text because no answer is still an answer. If you don't hear back from them, that doesn't necessarily mean what your anxious brain is telling you that it means. Maybe they're not ready. Maybe they know that hearing from them would just stir something back up in you, and they don't want that for you right now. Maybe they're dealing with their own version of this exact same thing. right? And they just don't know what to say. I can't tell you which one it is for your specific situation because I don't know you or your ex. And you don't know what they're thinking either, even though you do know your ex. Neither of us can read minds, but silence doesn't automatically mean what the worst version of your imagination is telling you it means. So be prepared for a negative answer or no answer. And if you are okay with that, it's okay to send the text. What if you had a trip planned together? I see that question come up a lot too. Maybe you already rented the Airbnb and maybe you got plane tickets or you just don't want all of this money to go to waste. And I don't think people are always honest with themselves about this situation because sometimes it really is just about the money already having been spent. And I get that. For my breakup, I had bought tickets to Australia. I had rented an Airbnb out there and I had an engagement ring in pocket. I know the loss that comes with this topic, but if you're still stuck on the trip and insisting you cannot cancel, and that's just the finality of it, sit with that thought for just a second because a lot of the times there's a quieter hope underneath what you're labeling as a practical reason, right? The hope being, of course, that if you get them somewhere that's relaxed and somewhere away from whatever was going on that led up to the breakup, and alone together, spending quality time with each other with no outside influences, they'll remember why they fell in love with you in the first place, and then you can both laugh the breakup off and be happy again. And I'm not going to tell you that hope is stupid or irrational because it does make sense why you feel that way. But I am going to tell you it's not going to play out that way. It's not going to play out the way you're picturing it in your head. Putting somebody in a nice location doesn't suddenly undo the decision that they already made. And if the trip is worth salvaging, go by yourself. Bring a friend. See maybe if you can get something refunded. Just don't invite them along as a sort of quiet, secret way of getting them alone for a few days in hopes that it reconciles the relationship. Because that's not moving forward with healing. Even if they do agree, you're just going to end up having the same conversations just somewhere else with a nicer view, right? If you're wondering, how do you get through the day itself? You've accepted the breakup, you're not even thinking about texting them, there is no trip plan, you just can't find the energy to make it through the day. I would say don't go in expecting to be totally fine because I think that that's setting yourself up for failure. You tell yourself, today is going to be okay. I've got this. And then the second it's not okay, you allow yourself that grace. Expect it to be a little harder than a regular day and give yourself permission ahead of time. Be around people that if you've got it in you, be around people. It doesn't need to be a big group. It doesn't need to be some party. Just somewhere that isn't your most familiar four walls and your own thoughts running through a loop with nothing interrupting them. And if the emotion hits you anyway, even with a plan, even surrounded by people who love you, let it hit you. Step away for 5 minutes if that's what you need. Feel all of the emotions and then go back in. One hard moment in an otherwise decent day doesn't undo the whole day. It's just a wave. Waves will come and then they go back. Actually, here's what I think you should sit with. Underneath all of the other stuff. This day is going to happen whether your ex is in it or not. The fireworks are going off either way. Your family and friends are still having that cookout either way. The real question, I think, isn't how do you get your ex back into this day? It's whether you're going to let the absence of one person cancel out everyone else that is still here for you. And I know that feels impossible to do right now, but the day doesn't stop just because they're not in it anymore. It's just different this year than it was last year. And different is not the same thing as ruined, even though right now they probably feel the same. So I want to give you some homework. I want you to do something if you are up for it. Before the day even gets here, sit down and write out a short list. 5, 6 things, that's plenty. Of the things you're genuinely looking forward to that have nothing to do with your ex at all. Nothing you're supposed to be grateful for or anything like that, but things you actually want and things that are entirely independent of your ex or the relationship. Maybe it's food that you're excited to eat. Maybe it's a person like a cousin that lives far away and they're visiting and you're excited to see them. It could be as small as you finally get a day off of work. But I want you to have that list in your pocket, literally in your pocket or on the notes app in your phone. So when the wave does hit, because it most likely will at least once, you've got something concrete to fall back on, right? It's not something that's just as simple as get through it, right? You're telling yourself, get through it. You have this note in your pocket. You can fall back on that, remind yourself of the things you can be grateful for that are not your ex. You've got something to actually look forward to on the other side of this wave of emotions. Because the first holiday without somebody is almost always going to be the hardest one. And it's not because the holiday itself is special, but because this is the first time absence has had a real weight to it. Next year, the 4th of July is just going to be the 4th of July again. But this year, it's the first one without your ex. And that's really the entire difference. And that's also exactly why it does get easier from here. What you're going through right now might pass like a kidney stone, but it will pass. So that's all I've got for today. If you're dreading the 4th coming up, I would genuinely like to hear what's going through your head about it. Drop a comment, let me know. And I'm going to remind you again, you were whole before them, and you are still in there. Until next time.